let's get into it. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and look past the cool sketches and drafting tables. We're diving into the real playbook of a modern architect, how they actually conduct this massive orchestra of people, data, and risk to bring a complex building to life.
When you think architect, what comes to mind? Probably this, right? Some creative genius, alone at a drafting table, pencil in hand. And yeah, for a long time, that really was the heart of it. Drawing is the language of architecture. It's how these huge, abstract ideas first start to take shape.
But here's the thing. A beautiful drawing, no matter how brilliant, is just the first spark. Getting from that initial concept to a finished, functioning skyscraper or hospital, that involves a massive, complicated dance between dozens of people, tons of technology, and a whole lot of process. So how does an architect actually lead that dance?
So here's our game plan for figuring that out. First, we're going to go beyond the blueprints to see what the architect's role really is today. Then, we'll look at the modern team playbook, how they build with data and how they master project risk. And finally, we'll see how it all comes together to create the architect of the future.
Okay, first things first, we have to completely rethink what an architect does. Today, their main job isn't just being a designer, it's being a master orchestrator. Think of them as the central hub, the one person responsible for guiding this incredibly complex vision from an idea into a physical reality. Let's see how they pull it off.
So, if you're the orchestrator, what's job one? Getting all the musicians to actually play together. In construction, that means tackling what's called the silo problem. See, on any big project, you've got designers, engineers, contractors, specialists, and they're often working in their own separate worlds, which, as you can imagine, leads to some major conflicts and mix-ups. And wow, this slide just lays it all out, doesn't it? The old way of doing things, design, bid, build, often set everyone up to be enemies. The architect would design something, then it would be sent out for the lowest bid, and you'd end up with teams who'd never even met. Risk just got passed down the line like a hot potato. But these new collaborative models, like design-build or IPD, they flip the whole script. They get the architect, the contractor, and all the key players in the same room from day one. Information is shared, risk is shared. It's just a much healthier and more efficient way to build.
Integrated Project Delivery, or IPD, is really the ultimate version of this. It's basically a fancy contract that forces everyone to play nice from the very beginning. The whole idea is, if you get all the smartest people in the room right from the start, you can use everyone's expertise to make the project better, cut down on waste, and solve problems before they turn into expensive headaches on the job site.
Okay, so the team's all on board. They're collaborating. Great. But what are they all looking at? That brings us to the next big challenge, the information problem. You see, old-school 2D blueprints are just lines on a page. They're disconnected, and it's way too easy for something like a plumbing pipe and a steel beam to end up in the exact same spot, and nobody notices until it's way too late.
And the solution to that is building information modeling, or BIM. Now, when you hear BIM, you might just think, oh, a 3D model. But that is not even half the story. It's so much more. It's a rich, data-packed digital prototype of the entire building. It's the one single source of truth that everyone on the project uses.
In the design phase alone, this is an absolute game changer. Architects can run energy simulations, see exactly how the sun will move across the building, or even walk clients through a virtual reality version of the space. And here's the real magic. The computer can automatically find any clashes, like where a giant air duct is trying to run through a concrete column. Catching that early saves unbelievable amounts of time and money.
And it doesn't stop there. That exact same digital model then goes straight to the construction site. The contractor can pull precise amounts of materials right from the model to get super accurate cost estimates. And on site, it makes sure everybody is, quite literally, building from the same instruction manual, which just slashes the number of mistakes and expensive do-overs.
And get this, the model's job isn't done even when the building opens. It becomes a digital owner's manual. The facility managers can use it to find a specific piece of equipment, schedule maintenance, and just run the building way more efficiently. That BIM model creates a digital thread that connects the final operating building all the way back to the architect's very first ideas.
All right, so you've got your dream team. You've got your amazing digital model. But let's be real, construction is still a high-stakes game. It is full of risk. And this is where the architect has to shift from just being a problem solver who reacts to fires to a proactive manager who stops them from ever starting.
Okay, now check this out, because this is fascinating. You'd think the biggest risks would be, I don't know, a big design flaw or a contractor messing up, right? Nope,
Look at this. The #1 reason architects get sued, at a staggering 43%, is having a client who is just inexperienced with how design and construction work. That tells you that managing risk starts before you even draw a single line. It starts with choosing and educating your client.
Now, to manage risk, you also got to know the rules of the game. And a super important legal concept is the standard of care. It basically means an architect isn't expected to be perfect. They don't have to be superheroes. They're just expected to do their job with the same skill and care that any other competent architect would in a similar situation. That's the bar. That's the benchmark they're judged against.
So what's in their toolkit to actually get ahead of these problems? Well, it all starts with smart negotiation to make sure everyone's on the same page. It means having rock-solid, crystal-clear contracts that spell everything out. It involves constantly educating the client about what's realistic for cost and time. And crucially, it requires a detailed project work plan to keep the whole train on the tracks.
And this is where it all comes together. We've seen how the architect manages people, how they use data, and how they get ahead of risk. The truly future-proof architect is the one who can masterfully weave all of these threads together into one seamless process.
So how does this actually work day to day? It all comes down to the project work plan. This thing is the absolute nerve center of the project. The team breaks the entire project down into phases and then into smaller tasks. And this right here, step 3, is the critical part. You're not just guessing, you're assigning actual staff hours to every single task. Okay, Sarah gets 40 hours for the facade study. John gets 60 hours for the structural grid. This creates a super detailed schedule with clear milestones. And it's not a set it and forget it kind of thing. It's a living tool. Week by week, the firm tracks hours and fees right against that plan, so they know instantly if they're on schedule and, just as important, if they're on budget.
So, when you boil it all down, what is the modern architect? They are not just a person who draws pretty pictures. They are a master orchestrator, a leader who skillfully combines collaborative teams, powerful digital tools, and smart risk management to guide a project from a simple drawing all the way to a complex, successful reality.
So where does it go from here? Well, as our buildings get smarter and smarter, filled with sensors that report back on their own performance, a really wild question pops up. How will the architect's role change when they don't just design buildings, but they have to collaborate with the buildings themselves long after construction is finished? Something to think about.